So today we'll be looking at how to invest in regenerative agriculture and food. We've been looking at why to invest in regenerative agriculture and food. We've been looking at unpacking the impact, the risks, the opportunities, etc. Now we're, I think, ready to look at the how. And for that, I would like to share with you the framework I've built to decide what to focus on within regenerative agriculture and food. Why a framework? Because there were too many interviews I wanted to do for the podcast I'm running, asking this question, how to invest in regenerative agriculture and food. And I needed something to select. And just to be very careful, this is not an investment framework, but it's a framework I built to select the most impactful themes for us to focus on to record interviews. Like, what are the themes within regenerative agriculture and food that I think I should focus on to record as many impactful interviews as possible. I think all investors should have a decision-making framework, because it can be very overwhelming to look at all the potential of the sector and to basically not know where to start. So I would like to walk you through how I created the framework and invite you to first of all, to dive deeper into it. This is just going to scratch the surface, to give your feedback on mine, and to please sit down and go deep into a decision-making framework mind and share it with me if you want to, because I really am very interested on how people focus, how people decide to invest in certain sectors or not, even certain subsectors. This is also not investment advice. Seek professional financial advice before making any investment, please. So now onto the framework. It's, as I said, my personal framework that I developed to pick the most impactful themes within regenerative food and ag. And I've mainly used 3 different parts. So I've used the 80,000 hour framework used by Effective Altruism, which is looking at importance, tractability, neglectedness, and basically trying to build a mathematical framework to decide or to where to focus on. How I explain a lot more about that. I've used leverage points, places to intervene in the system by Donella, Meadows, and I've tried to answer a third question, why now? Which I think is a very important investor question. You would like to know, okay, we're now in 2020, 2021, whenever you're looking at this, what is different than a few years ago? Why now suddenly it's possible, or why would the result be so different? Because we've been working on changing the food system for a long time. Some people have been in this for 30, 40, 50 years. Why would it be different now? And why would we be able to scale it to have the impact it needs? So to start with ITN, importance, tractability, and neglectedness. It's sometimes named scale, solvability, and neglectedness, but I try to use both. So importance/scale. What is the scale of the problem? Like if we would fix all the problems in this sub-theme, how much better would the world be? Would it make a small change to a few people, or would it make a lot of change to a lot of people, or would make a lot of change to a small amount of people, etc., etc.? This is trying to understand the scale and the importance of the problem. Tractability, which is not traceability, it's tractability and solvability. If we would double the resources that are dedicated to this problem, what fraction of the problem would we expect to solve? So how easy is it to solve? If we put a lot more resources, money, time to it, would we be able to solve it? Or is it something that is just not possible yet? Neglectedness, which is a horrible word to pronounce. How many resources, how many people, how much money, how much energy is going into it at the moment? And in this case, if you look at the scales, basically you're looking for something that is super important with a large scale of potential impact, very solvable, and neglected, because there's where the space where you can have the most impact. Remember, I'm using this to select which themes within regenerative agriculture and food I'm recording podcasts on. The fourth, which is often forgotten, is actually personal fit, because this is a marathon. I'm going to do this work for 50 years, probably. If there's no personal fit, it's very difficult to get out of bed and record these things. So personal fit is extremely important, and it's actually part of the framework. I try to include it as well. I've shared a number of links to dive deeper in these frameworks at the end if you want to dig deeper. So definitely, I invite you to find out more. And just to have a look how they're calculating that. So we're back to scale and importance, solvability, which is tractability, and neglectedness. So you're basically trying to divide the good done, how much of the percentage of the problem will be solved, and how much of the percentage of the problem will be solved if you would increase the resources. So we're trying to get it to a few numbers, which is super, super, super difficult and definitely not a science, but it gives, I think the process in this case is almost more interesting than the outcome. Then we looked at, or I looked at leverage points, which is a fascinating white paper essay system that Donella Meadows shared and actually is continuing to update. Definitely find it online. It's super, super interesting. Places to intervene in the system. In this case, the lower number, the better. So before we were looking for a higher number, and I will show it later, but in this case, we're looking for paradigm shifts. So leverage points are places within a complex system where a small shift in one thing can produce a huge change in everything, or big changes. And complex systems could be a corporation, an economy, a living body, a city, and an ecosystem. So a farm, by definition, is a complex system. So there are 12 leverage points. I'm not going to read them to you. I invite you to read the full article, which absolutely is very, very interesting for anybody working in complex systems, which is all of us, because we're all part of them. But just to highlight a few, like in this case, the lower the number, the better. So if we look at 3, you're changing the goals of the system. If you look at 8, you're looking at positive feedback loops. But if you look at 7, sorry, and if you look at 8, you look at negative feedback loops. So where are you trying to put your resources? In our case, the limited amount of podcasts we can record. In your case, maybe what you're trying to invest. Where can you have the most impact and the most changes? And then very humbly, I try to answer the question, why now? Is there something that has changed over the last year, or that is changing now, or that will change very in the near future, that makes a lot of these things possible? So just to quickly go over these themes, and these were the themes that I could see me interviewing. So nutrient-dense food, soil builders, cosmetics, let's go to the next page, diet change, farmers first tech, a lot of things I was interested in. I saw things happening, but I couldn't focus on all of them. So I made this framework to basically choose which of these themes should I focus on the limited amount of podcasts we can record. And with that, we're actually going to have a look at the framework. It's going to be a bit messy, so bear with me. So basically what we've done, and we're going to look at the ones that I've selected further, but basically what we've done is created this framework. Here you see all the themes, just the ones you saw before, nutrients to soil. You see a summary. I will share the link of this framework so you can dive deeper into it. And you see the different parts. So the 80,000 hour framework, which is importance, neglectedness, tractability, personal fit, leverage points. Remember, the lower the number, the better. These are all numbers that we look into in a second, and they basically add up. And with that, you can see which themes I chose to focus on, and the why now. Like, why would it be possible now? Just to have a very short intro on how to choose these, how to look at these themes. If you look at importance and scale, for instance. So you're being forced, which is very good, to answer this question. A reduction of the risk of extinction. Like, what would it do if this problem was solved? What would that change? Would it eliminate extreme poverty? Would it cure cancer? What level are we talking about? Would it be increase aid by 1/3 and spend it on cash transfers? Like, how big of a change would this be? And you'd be forced to choose one of these and to figure out, okay, which number, this is a logarithmic scale, obviously, would that change? Would it add 300 billion to the world's poorest 2 billion people or not? Like, this is very tough. And I tried to give one of these scores to every problem. And then I looked at neglectedness, like how many people are actually working in this. This is a bit easier, just to guess, okay, is there 1 million spent on it a year? Are there 10 people full-time on it? How many people are supporting, are considering this is an important thing or not? Again, here you get a crowdness score. The higher, the better, which means there are less people, which means your change or your impact will have a bigger impact. Solvability, how much of this is actually easy to solve? Like, if we would double this amount, like let's say there was 100 million spent a year on it, and if we would double it, what would that mean? Would it fix the whole problem? Would it fix 10%, et cetera, et cetera? And then a personal fit, which I mostly put 2 because I don't think I can have an outside impact. I'm not uniquely qualified to do a lot of this, but I'm quite motivated and have some relevant skills. And basically that got us to a number of different scores, which rated these themes within. And I will go back to presentation, which got us to the themes I'm focusing on. Technology-enabled landscape design, nutrient-dense food, payment systems for farmers, for ecosystem services, and transition finance to finance it all. And we'll be looking into all of these 4 in different videos. If you're interested to dig deeper, I definitely recommend all of these links. You're going to get lost a bit because there's a lot of information there, but I think making your own decision-making framework, what do you find important as an investor, as somebody who works in the space, where to put your resources? Could be money, could be time, could be energy. Where are you deciding to put your limited resources to work? And I put a link to the framework that you just saw so you can play with it, you can see it. Please give me any feedback you might have. What's next? We're going to look at nutrient-dense food in the next video, so please join. Very, very interesting stuff, very exciting stuff, very tasty stuff as well. And thank you for listening to this. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any feedback, please share it. If you want to find out more, go to the website, investinginregenerativeagriculture.com. And don't forget to pay what you think it's worth. And see you next time. Thank you so much for listening, and see you.